Now, they were legal on the NFL sideline for decades. A quick sniff and suddenly, more energy, more focus, more fire. But now, they're banned. The NFL just pulled the plug on smelling salts. Why? Well, because they don't just wake you up. They might hide signs of brain injury. I'm Dr. Yomi Adeyemi, board-certified urgent care physician and ringside doc for combat sports. Now today, we're breaking down a stimulant that you've probably seen on the sidelines, maybe in a meme video or even in boxing movies, but probably never truly understood. Let's get into it. So, just what the heck are smelling salts? Well, smelling salts aren't just some old school locker room ritual. The reality is they're a chemical cocktail designed to jolt your nervous system into a full-blown alert mode. Now, the active ingredient is usually ammonium carbonate. Now, this is sometimes mixed with ammonia gas and water. And when exposed to air, that compound breaks down and releases a sharp vapor. It hits the nose, hits the sinuses, and the upper airway fast. Now, in plain English, the fumes hit your face and your brain says, breathe now. It's an instant slap to your respiratory drive, mediated by your trigeminal nerve. That's cranial nerve number 5. It triggers a deep involuntary inhale. But that reflex doesn't stop at your lungs. That sudden intake of ammonia irritates your mucous membranes and sends your body into a sympathetic surge. Now, that's your fight or flight system, flipping on the switch. Heart rate rises, blood pressure climbs, you become hyper alert. Now, this all happens in seconds. And for some athletes, that jolt is the edge that they're looking for, especially if they've been tired or anxious or struggling to stay focused. Now, smelling salts have been used for over a century, originally as a medical emergency tool to revive people who fainted from low blood pressure, shock, or dehydration. And you'll still find them in some first aid kits or carried by EMTs. But here's the catch. Modern research shows, first of all, they don't treat fainting. They just stimulate a short burst of respiration and alertness without fixing any underlying cause. This is why many sports docs, including me, are always cautious about their use. And let's be clear, there are risks. Too much ammonia exposure can cause eye and throat burns and can trigger asthma attacks or even cause a spinal reflex withdrawal, where someone yanks away so fast that they injure themselves. So, while it may look harmless, a tiny little capsule in a small bottle, a quick sniff, and the physiological response is real. It's intense, and it's potentially disruptive. Bottom line here is that it's a legal stimulant, but that doesn't mean it's safe for everyone or for every situation. Now, to the heart of the matter. Why were NFL players using smelling salts? Well, it should be obvious at this point, given everything I just described, but what you'll find when you talk to players is that smelling salts can be part of a pre-game ritual. Sometimes it's used as a halftime boost, sometimes for kickoff bursts of intensity. Smelling salts became a locker room staple for players like George Kittle and Jake Moody. They weren't just trying to wake up. They wanted to feel ready for war. Players often say that smelling salts help them lock in before big moments. But here's the problem. When you're hit hard, like in football or boxing, you can get dazed. Now, that confusion, that fog, it's one of the signs we look for when we're assessing for a concussion. And we've talked about this in our concussion series right here on this channel. If you haven't seen that, I suggest you check it out. Now, imagine someone waves ammonia under your nose. Your body jolts awake. Your eyes are wide. Your heart is pounding. You feel fine, but you're not. That's why the FDA issued a warning in 2024. They said smelling salts lacked safety data, and had no proven medical benefit in sports. And most importantly, they could delay concussion detection. Now in August of 2025, just weeks before the new season, the NFL quietly dropped the bombshell. Smelling salts, which have long been a staple on the sidelines, are no longer allowed. At least, not if they come from the team. We'll get into that little detail as well. See, a memo was sent to all 32 teams. It stated that clubs are prohibited from providing any form of ammonia inhalant directly to players, on the field, in the locker room, or even at halftime. Now that means no prepackaged capsules, no ammonia in cups, no old school towels soaked in the stuff, and definitely none of the high potency versions players were reportedly sneaking out of gym bags. Now here's the loophole. The ban only applies to teams supplying the salts. If a player brings their own and uses it personally, that is apparently still allowed, at least for now. But don't get it twisted. This is not just a formality, it's a coordinated shift led by the NFL's Head, Neck, and Spine Committee after reviewing FDA advisories and medical literature. Now, consistent with everything we've talked about, according to the committee, these salts may temporarily normalize a player's presentation, making it harder to identify early signs of concussion on the sideline. That's not just risky, it can be negligent. And don't forget, this is the same league that's been grilled by Congress over CTE and sued by former players and fined millions of dollars over head injury settlements. So this move is not just about salts, it's about liability and the optics. And that might explain why the league is banning teams providing this stuff, but still allowing players to personally bring the salts. Liability, folks. It's about liability. And maybe, finally, about putting safety over spectacle. And this isn't just about pro athletes. Smelling salts are still sold online. TikTok influencers are sniffing them for fun. High school athletes might be copying the pros. Back in my high school days, I saw some guys here and there using smelling salts as well. But these are not toys. Bottom line here is that they're chemical stimulants that hijack your nervous system. And if you're using them to shake off a head injury, you're putting yourself in danger. I'd say the NFL's ban is overdue. And it's also a lesson. If a legal over-the-counter stimulant can interfere with brain injury detection, well, it's got to be dealt with. As a ringside physician, I've seen what happens when warning signs are missed. Brain injuries aren't always dramatic, and they can be devastating. Now, if you learned something new today, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more real world, real deal medical breakdowns. And tell us in the comments, do you think other sports should ban smelling salts as well? I've been Dr. Yomi Adeyemi. Be sure, as always, to stay dynamic. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.